Hey guys, my name is John, and I would like to talk a bit about crime trends in Sweden compared to crime trends in Poland, where I will try to compare these two because they have seen two different trends, and I would like to dig into that, try to find a potential explanation about this. But first, we need to get the data sorted and what is actually true. So I will start by taking this article, which states that 58% of men convicted in Sweden of rape or attempt of rape over the past 5 years were born abroad. And the article explains more that around 45% of these men were born in Middle East and Africa, where countries such as Afghanistan and Iraq is one of the most common groups. I will put a link in the description of this article. So, young men born outside of Sweden commits over 50% of rape in Sweden, which is a fairly large overrepresentation, to say the least. Um, so you have to remember that there's also a lot of young men born in Sweden that has parents from the Middle East and Africa. So this is first generation immigrants account for 50% of all rape in Sweden. Yeah. And overly significant overrepresentation, to say the least. Just yeah. But this is just an article, so let's try to dig into the data ourselves and see if this is correct or not. So this data is from Statistica, and here we see in 2013 we have around 60,000 reported sexual offenses in Sweden, and in 2023 we had almost 24,000 reported sexual offenses. So this is an increase around 50% in a period of time of 10 years. So in 10 years, Sweden have seen an increase in sexual offensive around 50%. When you call this data out to people, some will say, oh, there's an explanation to this, you cannot put it on that reason, blah, blah, blah. Some will say it's because Sweden have changed their definition of what sexual harassment and rape is, and also sexual assault, and that is very true. Some laws was changed in 2018 around the definition of rape. However, I would say by looking at the data, if we look at the data, you can see that the large increase is not from 2018 to 2020, 22 or 2023. There is a clear trend all the way from 2014 and 2015. So you see that the sexual assault is increasing in all years. It's not like 2018 and then it all of a sudden hop up a lot after. So that argument don't really make sense if you know where I'm trying to put my head at. So what do happen is before or around this time period of time, Sweden has a large increase of asylum seekers. I'm not saying this trend is 100% due to that, but you can certainly see that something is happening in the beginning of this period of time. And then you see a 50% increase over the period of 10 years. So let's compare this. Let's take this this paper before. So this is a study and not just an article. So we get both sides of the coin. So we're not only seeing the article that's referring to a study, but look at the study ourselves. So a study was made in Sweden from 2001 to 2015, and here we found that people, or generally men, that has found guilty of rape had, or 60% of them had an immigrant background, which 78% was born outside of Sweden. So the Sweden population, the Sweden population has around 9% that is from Middle East and Africa, and they commit around 60% of the crimes. That means that the overrepresentation is a factor 6.6. So the overrepresentation is 660%. So a Sweden man or Swedish men with an African or Middle East background is 660% more likely to commit a crime than a man that is don't have a background that is from Middle East or Africa. And that's just the facts based on this paper, based on what we have seen up to now. And that is corresponding to the data we just seen, where we see a increase in the trend, which is where we see that in this period of time, Sweden has added a large proportion of young men from Middle East and Africa, and thereby we see an increase in these crimes, which is also in alignment with this paper or this study is suggesting. All right, so let's look at Poland in somewhat the same period of time, not totally the same period of time, but still somewhat the same period of time. Poland has a different view on immigration from Africa and Middle East, and let's see how that has affected a crime such as rape. Here we see an I would say it's not a decreasing trend, it's not an increasing trend, but a slight decrease in the trend over the period of time. So in these almost 10 years, we see that that rape is falling, which is also what one would expect to see. We would expect to see over the period of time, as both in Sweden and Poland is increasing living standard, even though Poland has increased a lot more relatively to Sweden, we would see crimes going down here under also sexual crimes. So in Poland, this number is around 5% decrease over the period of time. So the complete opposite of what Sweden have seen with an increase of 50%. So now we have talked about sexual assault crimes. Let's look a bit on crimes involving murder or crimes that result in murder. And here we see the blue line is representing, this is in Swedish, and here we see the blue line is representing reported of deadly violence, and the red one is a person that is actually being charged with murder. And we definitely see that both of these colors seen a large increase in the period of time. If we take from 2012 standpoint as the other data we looked at, we definitely see somewhat the same trend, a large increase in this. It would be someone here. We really see this actually exploding. I would say this is not even a upward trend. This is actually almost increasing vertically, horizontally up. Yeah, and let's compare this to Poland. Um, this is not completely the same type of data, but I think you get the point anyway. We see from 2010, rate of homicides per 100 capital was 1.01, and in 2023 it was 0.8. So again, we see a trend that is decreasing in Poland compared to a trend in Sweden where it is increasing, not only by a small margin but actually a lot. So I would say you can make up your own mind about this. I will not take too much more about your time. I have make another video about this and also make a video about the grooming gang scandal in UK. If you have not heard about that, please see that video. I will appreciate that. I'm not trying to be someone or not, and I'm not trying to be a huge YouTuber or whatever. I just think that these truth is important to share, and I don't care if I reach 5 or 10 people. If those 5 and 10 people can share their own thoughts to others, then I think it's a win-win. Yeah, and I think when that being said, I think you should always respect others' opinion, as long as you can, um, say your piece. I think it's important to also respect others. Yeah, I will not. I will just go on and on. So thank you for listening. Have a good day. Bye bye.